Okay, in this quick video, I'm going to show you from start to finish how to set up an age lead warming campaign. And so we're going to try to do this in 10 minutes or less because it's actually quite simple to set up an age lead warm up campaign. And then this is pure gold. When I say age leads, a lot of times people think, right off the bat about buying age leads, but you can certainly do that, and I'm going to show you how to do that if you don't have any age leads. But more often than not, you're going to have a bunch of aged leads, aged consumer, aged customer data in your CRM, or you can kind of search around in your organization. They probably have a bunch of old lists or old leads that nobody's even paying attention to, right? And if you're a new insurance agent or a new loan officer, oftentimes they're going to give you a database or a pipeline of old leads to start working. And these are great. Don't think of this as sort of a haze or a punishment because there is gold in here, and it gives you a lot of reps really quick, right? So a lot of times if you're in a sort of a less prepared or organized organization, you'll just go in there and they'll say, hey, write a list of 100, 150 of your closest friends, and you're going to work that. That's going to be your initial pipeline, and that can be really hard, right? So I encourage you to look for this aged data sitting around. And if you don't, this, again, for really cheap and affordable, and again, I'll show you how to do this, cheap and affordable, you can really juice your pipeline, right? You can build a database on aged leads for a couple $100s that essentially puts you in the same position as someone who's been building and working to generate leads or build leads for 2 or 3 years. So you just accelerated your opportunity for success a couple years by just using age leads. So anyway, enough of a pitch for age leads. You can tell I love them because it's just such an easy way to build that database and that pipeline. Here is literally the step-by-step that I'm going to go through. So like I said before, to sort of lead this off, first thing you want to do is find some leads, right? I suggest identifying at least 100, right? Because this is a game of large numbers, right? Because when we talk about age leads, don't get frustrated. A lot of these people have already gotten their situation handled or have already found a provider, have a loan officer that they are already working with, or an insurance agent, or maybe they've just been overwhelmed, because they filled out a web form and a bunch of people have contacted them. And so they get a little frustrated, right? And so they may act out against you. And just say nasty things, right? But again, that's part of just sort of getting a lot of reps in. So anyway, game of large numbers, you need at least 100. However, the other mistake I've seen at the other end of the spectrum where people go for, and get thousands because they're so cheap. And so really, and you're going to see how I work these, you're only going to be able to work sort of lots of 100 or so at a time. But if you set the system up, the cadence or the rhythm that I like to work is put in a fresh 100 every week or two, and you can literally use this system to work through 100 at a time and complete that cycle, the sales cadence, in a week, maybe 2. And so you're going to need 100 leads or so every week or 2. Next thing I want you to do is actually write the sales cadence. It's really important. Sometimes you don't sit down and take the time here or really think through the process or the journey you want to take these individuals on. And so it can kind of feel a little wonky or whatever. So I really encourage you to sit down with pen and paper and do this. You can actually get this from us. So I have a couple different courses, and with all those courses, these types of scripts and sales cadences are just there. They're a part of it, right? And I'm going to show you some of the examples of that. So you can buy this, or you can sit down and just make it specific. Sometimes your organization already has scripts that they want you to use. Next thing is get some sales automation software. Again, most organizations already have a CRM, so you should be able to produce or do these sorts of things within any sort of reasonable CRM. And we're just going to automate some parts of the process, right? Primarily email. I also want to automate my tasks. So when I talk about automation, I'm talking about building sales cadence because I want to automate the full journey. So although I'm really only maybe automating sending out emails, I want it to task or build a queue for me of people that I need to call, build a task or a queue of people that maybe I need to leave a text message with, or I need to go door knock, right? So in final expense and some of the insurance type of products, door knocking is really effective. And a lot of times you kind of need to sit down with the folks, and it's better sort of face to face. So there could be different things that you want to put into the sales cadence. Ideally, in your CRM, you're automating the tasking of those different steps, so you don't have to think about it, right? It's just there in the morning, ready for you to go. If you don't have anything, these are two that I love. Quick Mail is my favorite by far because it allows you to automate not just the email, but also potentially text messaging if that's okay within your organization. Again, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your compliance person, so all of these techniques make sure that it's appropriate for, one, the type of data that you're using, that you have permission, right? And number two, the actual organization that we're working within. So a lot of times there's some rules and that sort of thing. But more importantly than that, it can automate the task. So it can tell me, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to actually use Quick Mail to set this campaign up here so you can see how I can put some of that tasking in there to help automate just my sales activity itself. And then the last two things are really important, just kind of mindset things. Start slow and steady, right? Don't try to don't try to dump thousands in here. It will truly overwhelm you. You are gonna get responses, and so you want those to be in a measured way. You also sort of want to get used to them, right? So some of them are going to be negative. You're gonna have to kind of fix your mindset there. But some of them, you want to get just a sense of the type of responses you get. You want to build up your database of how to handle objections. You want to make some templates so it's really quick for you to respond to a lot of the common things, because again, you're going to see the same things over and over again. And then ultimately, don't get frustrated, right? Because these are age leads. They're not perfect. Right? These are not referrals by any stretch of the imagination, but referrals are really hard to get, and referrals are really hard to scale, right? Even if you get a great CPA or a great financial advisor, chances are they're probably going to give you 2 or 3 referrals a year, right? That's just not enough to sustain you, setting 10 policies a month or doing 10 loan applications a month, right? You need some scale. So this is a great way to do that. All right. So that's the outline. Gives you just a general overview of what we're going to kind of cover here. So let's get to it. So first thing we need to do is we're going to find some leads, right? Like I said, most times you probably have these sitting in your CRM. Go look, see how many you have, how old they are, and those sorts of things. But if you don't, the easy button is to go to Age Lead Store and just simply go in and buy some leads. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. I won't go through the full process, but again, you can just sort of browse for some different leads. So you can hit that button, or if you want to go straight to a particular one, let's say we want to do mortgage, and go right in here to mortgage. I went ahead and logged in here because I have an account. You will have to register in this case and just set up your account, right? But I wanted to show it to you quickly, right? The nice thing is you can kind of filter. You can do newer stuff. Again, you can see all the pricing, super transparent here, depending on how many that you buy. So they're roughly about $1 or so. I would encourage you to kind of start with these newer ones. Probably be a little less frustrating, but as you get more, your system sort of gets honed and you get more successful, exactly what that conversion rate is and those sorts of things. You might get comfortable doing some older things. You can go into selecting your state. I'm here in Michigan, but I might also do, let's do some Ohio and Kentucky. So based on your licensing, those sorts of things. Filter, I'm in mortgage, right? So I can kind of filter the type of things that I want. Credit type, I can select the type of credit that I'm interested in. This is really neat. You can filter based on city, based on zip code. So I'm going to go in here real quick, and you can also do, like I said, cities. So let's just say this will just be, so I can go Michigan. I happen to be in Wayne County. And so you can get all those zip codes, or you don't have to figure them out. And then, of course, you can get account. So once I've got through and I've set up all my filters here that I want to look for, then I can just simply get a count of how many are available. You can see there's 354. This can be a little bit confusing sometimes. Like I said, you maybe only want 100, maybe only 200. I don't have to take all of these. I can just say, okay, I want 100 of these, right? But you can see there's plenty of lead volume there. And then I just add them to my cart. It's going to go here. It's going to tell me how much they are. and then I can go through and check out and buy these. Okay, so that's how I get leads as far as if I were to do it through the Age Lead Store. So again, there's a couple different ways to get that. Once I've gotten my leads in the store, it's going to give me a CSV file, which I can open up in Excel. I got a little sample here. A couple things that you want to look if you are buying leads of any type or age leads in particular. There's a couple of little things that can kind of that you should look for to make sure that you kind of got a good file and you got good leads. Obviously, a lead ID, Journayan, those sorts of things, typically important. That means they were kind of generated in a legitimate way. It also tends to indicate that they were originated or taken through a web form that probably collected consent and that sort of thing, which is super important. Obviously, addresses are nice, especially if you want to do door knocking. Most have addresses. The landline and cell phone. This is really important. Usually I go after the cell phone that allows you to text, so some people get confused as to which one of these phone numbers. A lot of times you'll get multiple phone numbers, and again, that's a good file. Also, a good age lead provider will often add and append data. So when you see things like recent, that tells you that there's been an update or some appended data in here. You'll see emails. Again, a lot of times there's some appending, so you'll see multiple emails and those sorts of things. So again, signs of a good age lead provider. This is really helpful. I like to use this because this is one of the few personalizations that I often use. It actually tells me when the lead was originated, right? So, and that's helpful when you're talking to somebody or even when you're doing your email to just say, hey, I noticed that you applied in November, but wasn't able to follow up with you, or I'm doing an audit within my organization and I've noticed some people that didn't get followed up with, and so it's my job to make sure that you got everything you need. So you can use scripts like that in the state is really helpful. The other thing, again, sign of a good lead provider, oftentimes you'll have an IP address on here, or you should. Right, and then there's a bunch of other stuff depending on the type of leads. This happens to be insurance, is a sample. So I've got Ford, I've got the car type, VIN numbers, and those kind of things. So anyway, that's what a simple lead file will look like. Then I want to go and I want to write my sales scripts. Right, so got a couple of examples here. This is what I often like to do when I'm writing my sales scripts and my sales cadences. This is the rhythm that I like to use often. So typically, I will do a call first and call through that list, but it's not the only thing, right? It's really important to do multiple things here, especially in the first day or so when you start working it. We talk about density. That first day, I want to do 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 different channels, so that they know that I'm trying to reach out to them and I have the highest probability of getting their attention. And it makes a really good impression, because when you do that, multiple channels and everything, it doesn't feel like it's automation, right? It feels like it's really a person trying to get a hold of you, and that's going to give you a better reception to this whole process, right? So I might do something like this. In most cases, it's going to be a voicemail anyway. You can use voicemail drops. You can just make the call. Again, I kind of do this in a low volume, so might as well make the call, right? Again, you're getting some reps in. You're practicing using your voice and leaving some good voicemails, but you might do something like this. Hey, Ali, this is Bill from the Hometown Lender. Just got your request. This is an interesting thing too. Oftentimes, even though I'm working aged leads, I'll kind of work it and I'll use the tonality of as if I just got this, right? And sometimes I'll acknowledge that it's older or whatever. Hey, I just got this file, or I'm the local person, and so I've received this information to follow up with you and those sorts of things. So I may give some indication that it's older, but for the most part, I'm going to actually work it like it's a brand new lead. And when I even talk to them, I'm like, oh, this is brand new to me, right? Again, making them feel more comfortable with the whole process. This is another well, the other thing that's important here is I always acknowledge or somehow add into whatever the script is that I got your information from the form that you filled out on the internet, or the request that you made on our website, or again, connecting that their brain to what they did, and giving them the 2 important things when you're doing sort of this cold calling, which is kind of what it is, right, for age leads, is that you want to immediately let them know why you're calling, right, and that needs to feel like a legitimate good thing, right? And it's like, okay, this is why I'm calling. Oh yeah, I was asking for some insurance information or whatever. And then where I got your information. Hey, I'm following up on the inquiry you made on the internet or that you submitted through the web form on our website, right? So again, connecting the dots as to why you're calling and how you got my information takes away a lot of objections right off the bat. Then this is a neat little technique. I haven't been doing this very long, but it's super effective. No need to call me back, right? Again, most of these are going to be voicemails. No need to call me back. Sort of lets them off the hook, takes down their guard. They're less defensive. It also way ups your response rate on your emails and your text messages. Emails in particular, it'll help your deliverability because it's going to get those people opening and potentially clicking on it. No need to call me back. I'm just going to shoot you a quick text message and an email. If you're doing both, that's the best way. But if you can't use text message, just tell them, hey, I'm going to send you a quick email with all my contact information, looking to set up a good time to talk with you, right? So that's my first call. And then in the same day, right off the bat, I'm going to follow up, just like I said, right? We're going to fulfill exactly what we said we were going to do, right? So if you say something, make sure that all the pieces come together and connect the dots by actually doing it. So I'm going to follow up with that text message that I told them I was going to send them. Hey, this is Bill. I just got your request on the web form. Wanted to make sure this is the right number. This is a great way to get a secondary opt-in, right? So in most cases, age leads, particularly in your own organization, you've gotten the consent necessary, but it's never a bad idea to get kind of a secondary consent. So you're starting this conversation or you're re-engaging this conversation. So it's super helpful just to make sure that they're willing to talk to you again. And it doesn't hurt. It makes you a good actor and those sorts of things. If you are going to do text messaging, just always remind them. And again, this is just it's good behavior, right? Just telling them that, hey, it's really easy to get this to stop, right? If you don't like this or you're frustrated by this or whatever, don't get mad. I'm just going to remind you, this is what you do. You just hit stop, right? So this is a real clean way, again, to get a secondary opt-in. Be a good citizen when you're using text message. A lot of people really like text message because it's not interruptive, right? It's not as interruptive as a call, right? So for the most part, people are fairly receptive to this type of contact. But again, verify with your organization that this is okay. But if you're going to do it, be a good citizen. Ask for another opt-in. Hey, is this okay? Is this the right number? Am I talking to the right person? Is it okay to text you? If for whatever reason I've got the wrong number, the wrong person, or you just don't want me to follow up via text, just hit stop, right? So again, in all cases, be a good citizen when you're doing this. And then, of course, my email follow-up is going to be something along these lines. Hey, I got your information from the form you filled out on the website. Our next step is to set up a call. In most cases, we're trying to set an appointment. That's our first agenda. Set an appointment. Back in the day, we tried to get them on the phone, right? But now everybody's used to setting appointments and scheduling things. So this is actually sort of the preferred mechanism, and you'll have a better response rate if you just give them control to set that appointment. So I like to do that. Talk about rhythm a little bit. We're going to do this for about 10 days. Like I said, this is something that we're going to move through in about a week or so. So that's kind of how that works. If you were to, the other thing I like to do is kind of work through my phone script. What am I going to say on the initial call? What are some of the objections that I'm going to handle? So I'll write those down. Who are you? Hey, this is how I'm going to identify myself. I didn't request anything. It's a pretty common one. This is where that date helps. Oh, it looks like from my records, back in November is when you filled out the form. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we made contact, so it's my job just to follow up and make sure that everybody got everything that they needed, right? I'm not interested. Everybody handles this a little bit differently. For me, the whole sales process is sorting and filtering, right? So I want to be very quickly moving through this. If you're not interested, I don't want to frustrate you more. I just want to sort of move through that and go to the next one. So for the most part, I'll just say, hey, no problem. Have a great day. Or if I want to just be a little bit sort of more aggressive, I could say, oh, no problem. Hold on to my contact information just in case you ever have future questions about a mortgage or you have future questions about life insurance or whatever. Just go ahead and save this into your phone. Because you can, depending again on your philosophy, 2-3 months, follow up again. And if they saved it into your phone, you're going to pop right back up and you might actually get something out of this, right? So email scripts, Again, a couple different things. You can see, I'm always writing, different scripts here. So I think it's a useful exercise to kind of do this over and over again. Okay, for today, I'm going to actually use this kind of stuff, sort of the cut and paste. I'll kind of go back and forth. But once you've written this, you can see I've got a couple different ones here. We can cut and paste in here. All right, now let's get to the action of actually setting up the campaign. I'm just going to go in here. Like I said, I set up a quick mail account. You're just going to create a new campaign. We're going to call it whatever we want to call it. So let's just call this aged lead warm up. And again, you're probably going to create several of these, so you can kind of give it a nice naming convention. But I'm just going to give you an example. And then it's super, super simple, right? You're just going to add your first step. We're going to start with an email. So I'm going to go back into my document, and we're just gonna use this one. So I want to start with this. So here's my subject line. And again, you can use, I've got all kinds of different versions of this. So you can, I'm not really, there's another video where I go into how do I write these things, so don't get too hung up on what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of showing you the mechanism and how quick and easy it is to set up a new campaign. So I'm going to go grab an attribute. I will have also loaded up my file in here, right? So you're going to take that CSV and you're going to load it up in here. That's super simple, but we're going to assume I already did that. I like to use the first name, right? So that sort of gets their attention because you're doing okay. So, and then you can do a pre-line. I don't necessarily do that because it's just going to kind of show this part. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the rest of this, and we're going to stick it in here. Okay, sometimes you're going to do a little formatting stuff. But I'm keeping it just text. I'm not doing, notice the other thing I'm not doing a bunch of fancy stuff here with formatting. I didn't build like some fancy email template or anything like that. It's nice you've got all this stuff set up in here. So you can use these little variables. So when I do attributes, I'm using variables. Like I said, I've written these for all kinds of different ones. So sometimes I need to go in here and change them to the actual variable that they use. And again, you can kind of go through here and clean some stuff up if you want to. I like to use what they call naked links, right? So they don't feel like you're hiding anything. It's clear that it's a link. When it goes into their email, it'll automatically turn it into a live link and that sort of thing. So also the email providers, when it's moving back and forth, it seems kind of a clean way to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and create this step. All right, you can see there, and then it automatically does some kind of best practices thing. It says, hey, I'm going to wait a couple of days. But in this particular case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a text message. And again, you can hook all this up to do text messages as well. I'm not going to kind of go through the compliance stuff. That's for you to kind of figure out and solve. One of the things that I like to do here is I like to do what I call a double tap. So I'm going to do this, create that step, and then right behind it, I'm going to do the second part, because that's what people do. They do a quick message and then they do a second message, right, as they're texting. It makes a simulation that you're doing it on your phone. Again, everything that I can to make this look like I'm doing it manually. So I'm going to stick that in there. All right, so I'm going to keep moving this step down because I don't want to wait in this case, but I am going to use that wait step later. Okay, so so I got an email, I got an SMS, but I want to make a call too, right? So make a call, go ahead, and this is going to set up a task for me to call. I'm going to go ahead and put my script in here so I don't have to go find it somewhere else. So I'm going to put my call script in here. And then all I need to do is, if they actually answer, which can surprise you sometimes, I want to have my call script up and ready to go. So do that. We're going to create our step. The other thing nice is you can kind of format this because you're going to be reading through it. So make it, break it down so it's easy for you to read through here. Boom, 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 because you're going to read that off. Okay, so we're going to update that. And again, the nice thing is, as you're kind of testing these things, you can move it up and down, right? So maybe, in this case, I had suggested making the call first. But doesn't mean you can't move it around. Maybe you'll send the email out. Maybe you'll do the call later. So you can move these steps around, and then it will execute in a different way. So it's going to do this call, and it's going to do the email, and it's going to ask you to do the SMS, do the second SMS. So these pieces are going to be automated, and then at this point, it's going to wait. And again, best practices suggesting waiting 3 days. So then we go back here, and we're then going to do another follow-up. Let's go back over to this one. So this is kind of the cadence I did here. And then we're going to go a day or so later, and I'll do, again, a follow-up, right? So you can do some, let's do this. So again, you can kind of play with these, right? But I'm just showing you like how easy it is. Let's in a couple days, let's send them another text message, right? So we're gonna put a text message in here, just reminding them that, hey, we're trying to catch up with you. And again, you can put, depending on how you want to do this, you could do video links and stuff like that. Doesn't like that link in there. So in this case, but you can put links in there. Okay, there we go. And it's going to help you, right? If you did something wrong, like that, I had a link in there that it doesn't particularly like in this case. So that's all you do, and then you just create the multiple steps and go down through here. The other thing is you can set up schedules. I like to set up a schedule just to make sure that we're doing weekdays. Again, make it look as natural as possible.